Hello and welcome to the Saturday Morning Gaming Show. It is June 8th, 2019, and I am your co-host, Ryne, joined by...
Lobos.
Hi, Lobos. It's great to have you here.
Thank you. It's my house.
And this is my gameplay footage that we're watching right here. And this is Zelda, A Link to the Past. What a great game. What did you think about this?
Yeah, this is like one of my favorite games for the longest time. It inspired my very first tattoo. It's
And what does the tattoo look like?
It looks like this.
It's like a Triforce thing,
the
right?
Triforce, and it's got the pendants of courage, wisdom, and power.
Mm-hmm.
I'm an adult.
Very cool.
With that on my body.
So one of the things I really like about this game is how it starts. So you kind of wake up in the bed and you're hearing Zelda communicate to you through your mind. And so I thought that was really interesting because as you step out of your house, like, is this like a real, am I dreaming this whole thing, or is this like a real experience, you know?
Damn.
And
and the fact that she has telepathic powers, I guess as you play through the game, you kind of realize there's more people with telepathic powers. That's kind of a random thing, but yeah, as you said, as you first enter that room, like, you can hear the rain outside, and I just remember loving that whenever you go indoors, they have that ambient change, and you can really feel like it's raining outside.
Yeah, by far that was one of the coolest things stepping out in here. Is just like they're really setting the scene for this downpour, and they have this really wonderful lightning and this thunder, and it's just like, wow, this is, this is like a, midnight, and you're just walking out into this dangerous world. And, I know you played this as a child, but I played it as an adult. And so I had the experience of multiple Zeldas before I played this.
Gotcha.
And when I played this, the first thing that kind of stuck out in my head is, wow, you kind of get into the action right away. And it's just like, boom, you're in the first dungeon. And I had to think about it. I'm like, that's actually the norm of those series. It was very much, you're in the action right away. And so I still thought that was very cool. It's just like you walk out and it's literally the first dungeon you're in the first like 5 minutes or so.
Oh yeah. I mean, as long as you don't get lost. Yeah, I think Ocarina of Time, like, it takes a bit of time because you have to like acquire your shield and then your sword by doing stuff around town, and then you get to the overworld and it's like, oh, okay, cool. And this, it just jumps you right in.
Yeah. And one of the things you meet, I guess, is your uncle. Is that right?
Yeah,
on the way there. And again, talking about games that have come since, it reminded me so much of Dark Souls when you'd walk and you get the key from that guy that was kind of leaned
Oscar.
up against there.
Yeah. He is the Oscar of Link to the Past. Yeah, he gives you your sword,
perhaps Oscar was the, I don't know, the uncle. I don't know if did he have a name, the uncle? He probably had a name. Uncle Zelda.
Uncle Zelda, right.
Yeah.
There is that thing when he's dying, he says this line that says, I think it's something like, Zelda is your ...
Yeah.
And then dies.
What do you think he was going to say?
I mean, what? Star Wars. Of course, Star Wars was out by now. Star Wars was popular, so maybe it was like a Luke Leia kind of thing.
Like your sister sort of thing?
Yeah, maybe your sister, but I don't think they ever say anything. So
that's a really good
mom
call
is your mom. All the bees. Oh my gosh, yes.
The bees are a nice little surprise for just trying to get some hearts. And they kind of follow you until you either kill them or you just get out of the area. I don't think there's a despawn. You see in the video there, I was actually trying to run away. I was like, okay, clearly this thing's going to go away after a while, but that's not the case.
Right. You can capture them and then unleash them upon your foes. So
I realized you could capture them, but I didn't actually know you could use them for anything.
Yep. That's what they're for. They're on your side if you capture them, because that's... I don't know.
Yeah.
They're Stockholm Syndrome, so they gotta attack all their enemies.
And for people watching the video here, you might notice that my character kind of disappears a couple times. Actually, it's quite prevalent throughout this video. And
emulator.
And so actually it's not emulated.
Oh, what?
So what it is, and I want to call this out because this is not what the normal game looks like, and it took me a little bit to realize what was going on. I was recording this through I think it was OBS in a weird way in which I was only capturing it at 30 frames a second.
Right. Right.
And so, the way the way getting hit usually works is your character flashes on and off every other frame. And so basically what happens is if you catch the cycle correctly, your character will appear invisible. So in the future, I record at 60 frames a second, but just wanted to call that out. So you get to the first dungeon, or the castle, if you will, and you're tasked with rescuing the princess here. Now, there's this one room here that I wanted to see if you had any insights to, because it looks like there's 2 places for bombs, and I was like, well, I don't have bombs yet, so maybe you're supposed to come back to that at some point with bombs?
Didn't? Yes,
I didn't.
You can come back. You can also break those walls with the Pegasus boots when you get them later.
Mm-hmm. Wait, so just these walls? Or just
the ones that look like this.
Okay, that have like big circle cracks
ones,
in there.
Yeah. If it's like a little crack, then those require bombs.
Okay,
but
so what's in them?
I think there's a bunch of rupees in there, like
so
like
nothing
100 or 300 rupees. Like it's a lot. Like
so, actually, interesting. When I was looking at trivia of this game, there was a Nintendo Power Contest, I believe, and that was won by a Chris something or another. And there's a special room in the game, which is as I understand it, is sort of a room that you get sent to in the case of an error.
Yes, the Chris Houlihan room.
Yes. And I guess there's just a bunch of rubies in there and a little message saying, hey, let's keep this our secret.
Yeah.
But
there's several ways to get there intentionally.
Yep.
But yeah, I actually don't remember any of them.
Well, apparently one of the ways is just randomly through falling into the pit at the end Ganon fight.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
That's how they covered up their glitches. They were just like, well, I don't know.
Well, a lot of video games back in the day did that.
Yeah.
They would hack the error code there and just have them send to a warp rooms or whatever there.
Yeah. Oh man, you pulled the wrong lever here.
To get out of the first dungeon here, there's 2 levers, one on the left and one on the right. I pulled the one on the left. I don't know. I always feel like going to the left first because I feel like the right's got the good stuff.
I feel like they knew that.
Yeah, and so I pulled the left, and there's a bunch of snakes that come out, probably like 6 or 7. Got to kill those.
Yeah.
And
or at a minimum, if you pull the right one, you see the door open, you're like, well, what does the left one do? And then there's a bunch of snakes and then run away or whatever. So.
Yeah, and they do that a couple times throughout the game. There's another sequence with I don't know, it's like a water dam thing. You're lowering that, and I think the left one will
drop bombs on you.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Maybe I'm actually curious now if right is always the correct answer in this game.
Well, it is always right.
All right. We're gonna edit that one out.
Sorry. Yeah, you can do that.
So let's see. So you get out of this area into, is this a sanctuary?
Sanctuary.
Okay,
yes.
And it's a place with the stained glass windows and stuff like that. And you're basically given a quest, right? And I'm gonna have you talk about the quest because you can pronounce the names of the characters a lot better than me.
Story and
yeah.
I actually don't remember. I always just mash through this nowadays.
So, well,
they
you have to go kill the wizard,
right? Aganim.
Yeah, and this guy that's talking to you is what's his name? Like Sarasa?
No, wait. I don't think this is him. I think he tells you to go seek the elder.
Oh, that's right. Yeah,
Sahasrara, which is how I've always said it, anyways. But
one of the things we have to do because we are trying to get this in under an hour is we'll have to skip some content here, and so we're going to skip right ahead to like basically the third boss here, because essentially what you do is you go to the first 3 dungeons. They're kind of pretty easy stuff. There's a bow you pick up. There's what's the other one?
Now you get the power glove.
Yeah, the power glove.
That gets you access over here.
Yeah.
Though a lot of the levels are kind of open. You do need the power glove in order to get here, I think. Mm-hmm. Yeah, because you have to lift it in order to get to the mountain
it's
cave.
very clear that you have to do these in a certain sequence, because the first one, you get the Pegasus boots in the first dungeon, right? And then the Pegasus
Eastern
boots,
Palace.
The first, and then you get that. You have to knock down a book to read the language to get in the desert one,
right?
And then you have to, like you said, get the power glove. So, and so all this is in service is getting these 3 pendants, and really that's kind of the start of the game almost. It's like you do this kind of introductory things, and then it's time to visit the dark world.
Right. And it's not quick. It's like, you're doing 3 big dungeons, and especially if you're a new player, you're like, like dying here and there, and then you're gonna go get the master sword, which is like, oh man, this seems like almost kind of climactic.
Yeah,
for the
you're
game
like,
already.
I'm reaching the end, and it's like you haven't even started. So, one of the bosses we just saw was the centipede creature.
That's Moldorm.
Moldorm, thank you.
That's the worst. For a first playthrough, especially because
it's tough.
You hold your sword out, you're like, oh, I can bounce off him so he doesn't hurt me, but then he knocks you completely off the platform and you have to reset
the fight. Now,
so many times.
There are a couple hearts down there you can pick up, which is nice, but especially, I can see that as a speed run, totally would be really frustrating because you just get a bad... Is there any strategies there to just kind of really guarantee a win?
You can tell, like, whenever he's distanced from you, he'll start to go towards you. He always curls away, and so you can just kind of wait for that curl as long as you got the right spacing, and then just do a spin attack, and it gets him done pretty quick.
So the way I beat it was I just kind of stood behind his butt, and while he was getting up, I was just swinging frantically. And if he was near an edge, I'm not anywhere near that edge. I'm just gonna keep my distance from him.
Sure, yeah.
So I eventually finished him up, and then got the third pendant there, and you can go into the Dark World without the Moon Pearl. We didn't actually talk about the Moon Pearl, but the Moon Pearl. Yeah. You get in the third dungeon there, right? And if you go to the Dark World, you turn into this bunny.
Yeah, everybody turns into some sort of animal, maybe based off their personality or their inner character or something like that. And
why a bunny though? It's is Link a...
I don't know. He's there's like the bully there who's like kind of a
kicking a
horned
thing.
Devil guy, and then there's the other guy who's like just getting picked on. He's a little ball. But who knows if that's their personalities back in the light world, or if that's just he's bullying because his nature is he's bigger and stronger than the little ball guy. But who knows?
But in any case, once you go back and you have the Moon Pearl, you can spawn into the Dark World, and you have your sword, but you can't actually kill the bully. It's just like you have to watch the scene play out. So
he's forever tormented. This is like that thing's hell.
Well, I guess as Link, I always want to be the hero. I'm like, I'm going to stop evil villains, and unfortunately that was not the case here. So going into a little bit of the Lost Woods here, I fully expected this to be one of those things where you would just constantly route around the areas until you had some sort of item, like a map or something. I didn't realize that there was actually a way that you could just like navigate, because a lot of times games will be like the Lost Woods, you have to have an item or someone has to tell you go left, right, left.
Sure.
But this is
the lens of truth or something.
Exactly. Yeah. But this one is just a bunch of these fake swords.
Yeah, dummy swords.
And who put those there?
I don't know, man. I mean,
why would you have fake Masterwork swords just lying around in a forest?
Somebody who's like, I don't know. There's some official who's setting up who gets the Master Sword. They're like, all right, well, we put a bunch of fake swords here, and if they get past that, then they're worthy or whatever. I don't
know. So before we got to that Lost Forest, I actually encountered the lumberjacks. I guess they're sawing down a tree.
Yep.
And I'm going to talk about this a little bit later, but I actually thought those were the smiths. Because I was told the fortune teller's like, you should go drop down the hole where the smiths are. I'm like, okay, well, the only thing I can think of that's like a smith is the lumberjack guys. So when I went there, they were gone, and because they actually saw down the tree at some point in the game. And then you can go jump down there and get a heart piece. I was like, great. So I guess that's exactly that confirmed, like, they're the smiths, and that I got my heart piece, right?
Because there was a hole.
So now here's the thing, though, and for people watching the game, they may be realizing some of the bosses seem more difficult than they should be, and I was convinced that I was missing a way to upgrade my weapons, because like these bosses are taking forever to kill, but I couldn't figure out a way to upgrade the weapons. I was like, well, maybe the smith, but they're gone, so... We can talk about that a little bit later in some of the other dungeons there.
So is this actually your first time defeating a Ganon in this video here?
No, I've actually beat him before.
Okay.
But the Dark World is kind of where I fell off, so most of that is new.
Gotcha.
So you get the 3 pendants, you get the Master Sword thing, and then you go fight the wizard in the tower, and it's not a bad fight, but what's really cool about this is he shoots these orbs at you, these energy orbs, and you have to reflect them back. It's
you play tennis, although he doesn't knock them back. They go further in the series. They do make it a back and forth thing.
Yeah, you say that becomes like kind of a staple of the series, and I'm pretty sure this is the first game that actually had that. I can't, you had Zelda 1 and Zelda 2. I don't remember any situations. Now, they had a reflection shield in like the first one where the wizards would shoot magic at you and you could reflect them, but I don't think you ever used your sword for that.
Sure, yeah. And that I remember the room right before Ganon, there's like he makes Zelda disappear and then teleports away and then just leaves you in that room. And I remember when my first time playing it, I was like, what do I do now? I couldn't even figure out where to go. And then I had the bright idea of slashing those curtains down.
Well, because you can't exit through the area you came through. Right,
the door's closed. So you have to try something.
Yeah. And I really enjoy those style of basically you have one room and it's just there's limited things and just experiment things. A lot of times games will do that where you're in prison and they take away all your items and all you have is like a stick and you're like, well, how do I use this stick to get out of the jail here? So once you get into the Dark World after killing the wizard, you're basically told you got to go rescue the 7 maidens who are, I think they have the seals active or had the seals active that were deactivated that are bridging the light and the dark world. Is that correct? Something like that? I know that you're the lore expert, so...
They're at least... they have Ganon's tower sealed away. So, like, you need to get them all, and then whenever you go to Ganon's tower in the dark world with all the crystals, then it opens up that way. So I think your goal is to get them all so you can access Ganon's tower and then challenge him or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, just entering the Dark World for the first time, I remember was a magical moment because first of all, you get it's silent and you get contacted by Sahasrara, and he's like, "Do your best, Link," or whatever, and you have this awesome like horizon view that I mean, in Super Nintendo days, it was awesome.
Yeah.
And as soon as he finishes talking to you, that Dark World music kicks in, and you're just like,
so good.
I'm ready. Let's go. Let's go. 7 Crystal Maidens. Yeah.
The Dark World music is so fantastic.
Super good.
And I wish we could play that for everyone here. But I do recommend check it out if you haven't. If you don't hear the words Dark World music and know instantly what that sounds like, check it out on YouTube because it's really memorable.
Definitely.
And so the first area you go to once you enter that Dark World is this sort of forgotten temple thing. And you have to find this ape named Kiki, which I guess I'm not quite sure what the premise for this was. It's just
maybe it seems like they needed a rupee dump, and they're like, get rid of 100 rupees somehow. So here's his monkey.
But yeah, you had to. Yeah, I guess it would be weird to just go up to a door and say, "Here's 100 rupees to go in," because he takes 100 rupees from you, and I was wondering, is there actually a way to get into this dungeon without?
Yeah, not that I know of. Certainly not intended. Because even when I used to speedrun this, you'd have to route how many rupees you got. So you had 100 by the time you got here. And you couldn't just like bypass it or whatever.
Yeah.
Funny story though, my brother and I, when I was super young and played this a bunch, we used to like play together, and we had an imaginary show called the Kiki the Monkey Show.
Saturday morning game. You should have told me that, so we would have named the show.
Oh, we could have named it the Kiki the Monkey Show. It even had a theme song. It was Kiki the Monkey. It's the Kiki the Monkey Show. You can ask my brother.
I hope you have recordings of this somewhere.
Of course I don't have recordings. I'm sorry. Okay. But it's true.
So what sort of content was in the Kiki?
I don't remember at all. But there was probably a monkey involved somehow. And I don't know. I was like 6, I think. Or like 5, maybe. Okay. Anyways, we're entering the Dark Palace here.
Yeah, and this I think you get the magic hammer.
You do
in this one, and so some people might have seen in the video. There's these little whack-a-mole things that come up. They popped up their heads, and it's really confusing because many times you see a crack in a wall. You're like, okay, I probably need a bomb for this. Right. Or you see a brazier and it's a brazier and it's like unlit, and you're like, oh, I have to use a fire for this. But you see this little thing popping up, and you're like, I can't even conceptualize what this is, what I'm supposed to use here.
Yeah, well, I mean, I guess for me it like clicked once I got the hammer, especially since they usually riddle the dungeon that you get the item in with these things, and you're constantly like, how could I get past this part? What's the item going to be? And then you get the hammer, and you're like, oh, okay, all right, I got to go
it makes
mash
sense.
these pegs or whatever. But yeah, the one thing I really loved about this game was the different ways you could use like all the tools that you get. So not only is it just something to give you access, like like the turtle enemies you have to hit with the hammer to knock them over before you can damage them and things like that. Also, one thing we didn't mention earlier, just a little bit of trivia that I think a lot of people know at this point, but the fact that you can use the bug catching net to knock back Aghanim's attacks back at him. You can actually beat this game swordless.
I was just going to ask that.
Yeah, and that's one way you do that.
Well, now that we're on trivia, there's one other thing I wanted to mention about the Dark World was that the Dark World is actually just an overlay on top of the Light World, and that was to save memory on the cartridge.
Yeah, double your content with just a palette swap or something.
One more is apparently they wanted to have a third.
A gray world.
Third world. And I guess they, like, hey, that's too confusing, so they ended up cutting that. But it's very interesting that was a concept here.
Also, and I didn't know this. Apparently, in Japan, the hammer is called MC Hammer.
Yeah. And that's not the only game that has references like that. I think there was the everyone knows the Street Fighter stuff with was it Mike Tyson and was one of the fighters.
Oh, M. Bison?
M. Bison, yeah. Yeah,
right.
And that's why I think Sagat, Vega, and Bison are all like switched. The characters are actually switched in the North America versus the Japan there.
Gotcha, that makes sense.
Yeah.
I didn't know that either.
So yeah, we're just heading up to the boss here, and the boss in the Dark World. What's the name of that
Helmassar.
one? Helmassar.
Yeah.
And when I was playing this, so to give some context, it's this big beast with a helmet on, a face mask, I guess, with this tail that whips around. And when I played it, I was like, wow, I'm actually really surprised that they didn't use the hammer as the core mechanic for killing this boss. Because I was like, I'm not getting anything where near that, and bombs are doing the trick for me.
Right.
Apparently,
you keep your distance.
Yeah, apparently, though, the hammer was a mechanic that you're supposed to use on this boss. But yeah, I find it just completely fine to use the bombs here. And many of the bosses here we'll see I actually completed with just one life left, and I was like, wow, that's really cool when you get that really intense moment where you're like, oh man, am I gonna do it this time?
Right.
So I ended up using the bombs to take the face mask off, and then I think I used a combination of arrow attacks in the green spot and then the sword attacks when he got close. But once you take off his mask, he starts shooting out these orbs that start blowing up all around the area. And so it's very frantic trying to dodge all that stuff. It's all very predictable, where if you can read the stuff, it's easy to navigate.
And again, this was your first time ever fully completing the game, is that right?
Yep. Yeah, okay. I think this is probably the furthest I've ever gotten. So now everything, yeah. And so what's also really interesting is when you pick up hearts here, the heart container doesn't actually refill your life. It only gives you one heart, and then increases. And it gives you one full heart and then one more max heart. And it isn't until the maidens come out and they fill up your life. And I feel like all the other Zeldas I've played, the act of picking up, either filling up the heart container with the 4 heart pieces or picking up the full heart would immediately give you all your hearts back.
That's true. Although, to be fair, I don't think you can escape this sequence, so they figured, why not make the maidens seem more useful by actually filling up your health?
So I think in episode 0, you were mentioning that you can have a minimal heart challenge. So are you telling me you don't need to pick up the hearts here to beat the game? Because that's essentially what is unlocking the maidens, right?
You are right. I don't know. I've never done it, like I said, but I don't know how the 3 heart run works. Maybe it's just a modded ROM or something. I don't know.
Yeah. And once you rescue every single maiden, they give you this long spiel, and then they're like, "Do you understand?" And one of the answers is, "No, not at all."
Not at all. Absolutely no.
And I was wondering, probably it's just like repeats it, but I'm wondering, like, what if you say no, not at all? Do they just like, do they try to rephrase it? They're like, all right, listen, simpleton. You have to go rescue the rest of us.
They do that in unrelated Final Fantasy VI. There's a time where they're like, "Will you please help us?" And you're like, "No." And you say it multiple times, and then they give you a really good item. Like,
oh really?
Yeah, like a really good item.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Well, I'll know that if I play the game now.
You have to say no to everybody.
Yeah,
just
no to
find
everybody.
Out. Yeah.
So the next dungeon, you actually need to go raise the water level.
Ooh, I liked this puzzle a lot, though I had a lot of trouble with it when I was a kid too.
Yeah, because it's sort of a non-linear thing. It's like you have to know that there's this piece over in this other world that somehow correlates. And I actually knew that because when I was exploring for heart pieces, one of the heart pieces is I think it's like underwater, and then so you have to. Am I doing this right? It's either you have to lower the water or raise the water to get the heart piece in the light world. So I already knew that. It was already clicked with me. So when I came here, I was like, yeah, okay, I know what to do. But I could certainly see if you didn't know that prior, then it would be a little difficult to figure out that the light world and the dark world are connected.
Yeah, connected in
because
that way.
Before this, there's no... I don't think there's any clear tutorial or explanation that's like, hey, look, these things are
linked
interact
in
with
that
each
way.
other.
I can't think right now off the top of my head, but yeah, there's a lot of cool little things like that. They're kind of one-offs that are cool puzzles and not overused, so that you're still having to think about them each time.
And then so this dungeon here, you get the grappling hook, and interesting trivia about the grappling hook I learned today, but maybe is well known, is that while the grappling hook is out, so you use the grappling hook, and while it is extended, you're actually invulnerable at that point. Yeah,
the speedrun actually uses that in certain spots, like when there's like the big rolling spike, like rolling pins.
You don't have to move at all.
You can, like as it's coming towards you, you can like look up the room and shoot it, and it'll just pass right through you, and you can keep going. So it's kind of faster strats there. And the boss of this dungeon, the water temple, which we didn't really touch on too much. I think the first water temple in Zelda.
Is it?
Is it?
I think so, yeah.
Maybe, but this one isn't as notoriously bad as like say Ocarina of Time, but I think it started heading that way. Not that it was, like I said, it wasn't too bad, but it was kind of setting the tone for how water levels are going to work with the draining of the water and all that stuff, because there's multiple drain spots. And I almost feel like you play a Zelda, and it's like, all right, let me get the water level done with. When's that coming? But here we're almost done with the water level. We've encountered the first boss here, and what's the name of this boss? Argus. His name is
Argus. So it's sort of like this jellyfish thing with these clouds around it, and then you can pull those clouds out. They turn blue, and they try to go home.
Yeah.
And I guess the strategy here is you just have to kill the blue cloud things before they get back.
Right.
And that can be kind of dangerous, because if you pull the thing too close if you're too close to the thing and you pull it away, it'll actually just like, okay, I'm close enough, and I reactivate, and you can unintentionally damage yourself by just pulling it towards you.
Right, yeah, because you can't move while you're hookshotting, so that lets the boss like close in on you.
Yeah, and then once you take off all of the air things, the cloud things, this thing becomes frantic and just spins around the level in a sort of like a pinball-esque fashion there, and you just have to time out the rebounds and swing your sword on that. So not too bad, but again, I finished at about 1.5 hearts there, so definitely the first part of the fight I think was really easy, and then the second part gets a little frantic with just how you swing your sword. And also, one thing that's worth noting about this game, it's really interesting, is when you swing your sword out and you have it out, if you keep swinging your sword, you can't reorient your character. And And as a gamer that has come back to this game or come to this game for the first time,
sure.
There's very much the expectation of whenever I'm swinging, I can reorient my character while I'm swinging. But in this one, you have to specifically or explicitly stop swinging, pivot, and then start swinging again. And it just it doesn't feel natural. And so I think it's one of these things you just kind of have to learn to be like, all right, you take it at a more measured pace. Don't frantically try to swing your blade all over the place.
Right.
But even some of these bosses, it was still like, I'm just, I got to swing all over the place.
Yeah.
And try to hit something.
Yeah, and it's pretty much always more effective to, take your time, charge up a swing, and then time it well than to just mash furiously. Another thing, just kind of watching what's been going on here that I really, really loved about the game was just the sound design.
Oh, so good.
I saw him go through one of those warp pads here, and I could just hear it in my head.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's super good.
And then the Dark World music comes on.
Yeah, Dark World music comes on. There's things bouncing around.
Yeah, and the Dark World monsters are just so much more devastating than the ones in the Light World. And so we made it here to the Lost Forest here. And this dungeon, the Dark World Lost Forest. And
I think it's called Skull Woods, actually.
Yes, yeah, you're absolutely right.
Because there's skulls everywhere.
Big and small.
True.
So this dungeon is very different than any of the other dungeons I've seen in any other Zelda game. And I can't recall any that go through this scenario or this design of the dungeon is not contained to you enter a cave and that's the whole dungeon. It is very much, these are multiple entry points to the dungeon. And you have to basically enter in one part, exit in another, and then enter in another. And there's some backtracking that is involved there. And then once you finally get to the end of the dungeon, or the first part of the dungeon, you get some sort of item that allows you to resurrect like the real dungeon. Is that right?
Resurrect the real
There's something that allows you to either resurrect or like open up the final dungeon. I can't remember what it was.
Well, you get the fire rod, which is the tool that you get.
The fire rod, that's what it is, yeah.
Yeah, the final part of the level has this big like snout on the
that's
skull.
What it is.
Yeah, and then you burn that away and then it gets you access.
Yeah, and the fight here, let's see, what was the fight here? Mothula. This one was really challenging for me. I think this probably the one that took me the longest to beat because there's these conveyor belts and they're constantly trying to push you and pull you in one direction, and then I think there's spikes coming at you from the other direction, and then you got Mothula shooting orbs at you, and then you have your magic bar that is constantly ticking down. So, and I didn't have a lot of magic,
right? And
so I had to make every single shot count, and that's very difficult when you're managing all these things. Ultimately, I think what I did was I just sort of cheesed it because I picked up a bunch of fairies, and when you die with a fairy in a bottle, it just resurrects you and gives you like 5 hearts or something like that.
Yeah, right.
But yeah, I use that a lot.
There are a couple things you can do to make that easier. The thing is, because the game is pretty open at this point, you can go to dungeons at different points. Some are gated, but you can also get things like the tempered sword. Although you need to have done Blind's hideout, I think, the thieves' hideout.
So let's talk about Blind for a little bit, because we don't show him in the video here. Oh, okay. But what I really like about this game is things seem like they're really thought out, and that they're connected in a way that I certainly didn't grasp initially when playing. And I think this is a game that you can play multiple times and be like, oh, that's what they're talking about. So here's a good example. Is in the city, in the Light World, you're talking with one of the women there that says, this is the Thieves Guild, and the Thieves Guild leader is blind. They don't like light. And you're like, okay, that's really weird and random. Right. And then you go downstairs and there's like a puzzle, and you're like, all right, well, I don't see how this relates to anything. And then many hours later, you go back into that village in the Dark Village, the Dark City, and you go into the same area, and you fight Blind. But I didn't realize it because Blind is shown as like a princess. Yeah. And you bring her to this big thing of light.
Yep. There's a big window.
She's like, she goes, I think, yeah, you have to smash the window, right?
You have to bomb from above.
Yes, that's right.
Because there's a window that is shining onto a tile on the ground that's that's cracked. So then you bomb that open, and then the light shines all the way down.
Yeah, and that's really cool because she's like, oh, I can't see. And then she turns into blind. And I was just like, okay, cool, another boss. That's a cool mechanic. And it wasn't until I was looking through the walkthrough for our notes here, was just like, holy crap, that was blind. Oh, it all makes sense now. The light, she can't. Oh, yeah, so nice. I wonder, as I probably will play this game again in the future, how much of this stuff is going to kind of be like, oh yeah, I remember this.
Yeah, right.
There's an NPC that's talking about, or one of those Sarasla stones, and that kind of clues you into this here.
Yeah, we're watching a Cold Stare now, which is the boss of the Ice Palace, which has some pretty rough mechanics with the ice floors and stuff. And
everyone loves the ice level.
And the ice enemies that you pretty much need to kill with the fire rod. And I remember having a lot of issues with your magic power in this, especially because going into the boss fight, you need to have a lot of magic so that you can melt the boss out of his like ice shield.
I don't think there's a way to get to him without that, right?
I don't think so.
So real quick here, one of the things I found completely by accident, but I bet is a widely known strategy, is if you stay at the top of the screen, the ice balls that fall on top of you don't hit you.
They don't hit you.
They don't hit you.
Oh,
what?
I saw.
It's amazing.
They weren't spawning like particles that shoot out.
No, watch, like up here, they literally. I just stand there. I don't even move because they don't hit you. And once I figured that out. See, well, that doesn't count because I got hit by the boss, but it's really amazing. I was like, oh, this is super easy. Now, so let's talk about the weapons a little bit because this boss, I think, was a lot harder than it should have been. And again, I never found a way to upgrade my weapons. And I'm pretty sure there's something to do with a smith that you can do to upgrade your weapons. Because later on, I do get an upgraded weapon through downloading a save file, which we'll talk about. And... So, like, how do you upgrade your weapons?
Yeah, so you find in the Dark World, you find, like, this frog person, and that is the smith's friend who got trapped in the Dark World.
Oh,
so you rescue him, and then you can magic mirror back, and he comes with you and turns back into a little dwarf guy, and you return him to his buddy at the smith in the Light World. And then they offer to temper your sword. You give it to him, and then you just kind of, like, some time goes by.
You can temper it multiple times, right? Isn't there, like, 2 upgrades?
You can temper it once through them, and then there's a great fairy fountain at the end, or I think after you beat 5 dungeons, you can get access to the super bomb. Did you ever see that?
Well, the super bomb's necessary to beat the game. You need the super bomb to get the light arrows.
Oh, to get the silver arrows?
Yeah, or the silver arrows, yeah.
Right. So, yeah, once you get to that point, you can throw the tempered sword in, and she'll give you the golden sword, which is really, really powerful.
So, it seems like that is... Okay, I'm glad that I didn't miss... That sounds like you have to explore very thoroughly to get that, and I feel okay not finding that, because when I was playing this, I wasn't trying to speedrun it or race through it. I was like, let's take my time and explore the world there, and I didn't find any of that. And again, I was convinced that I already found the smith through the other the fortune teller stuff, so I wasn't really clear on that. But
there's a lot of other upgrades too. You can upgrade the shield, you can upgrade the bow.
Yep.
Maybe that's it. No,
yeah. Can you upgrade your magic power?
You can. That's at the little, like, there's like a demon that you sprinkle powder on an altar, and the demon appears, and then he makes it so your mana is half used. Yeah.
So for people watching the video, they now might have seen there's a huge increase in my power level. I have this red shield now, and I got the red sword and tons of hearts. So what actually ended up happening is I emulate most of this stuff, and through some unfortunate button presses, I had actually just stomped over my save file. So what I ended up doing was I found another save file that had pretty much the same dungeons and items that I had beaten, but it was like, well, this is fully upgraded. You had all the hearts up to that level and everything. So I basically jumped up. I think we're on dungeon number 6 now, 7. No, we're on 11.
This is the Swamp Palace.
Swamp Palace, okay.
They're numbered, I guess, based on the crystal number, but
that's right.
You can go to a lot of them out of order. So But yeah, this is the dungeon where you get the Cane of Somaria, which allows you to create your own blocks, which I feel like, at least tech-wise, was pretty cool.
Yeah.
You can spawn blocks, you can hit them again to explode them, or you can push them around and use them to like keep switches down and all sorts of things like that.
Yeah. So just a correction, this is the Misery Mire.
Oh, Misery Mire. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah, Swamp Palace is the light world.
So yeah, the Cane of Somalia or what was it?
Samaria.
Samaria.
Yeah, Somalia, but Samaria. Yeah.
That is a really cool mechanic, and I really wish that we could have done more stuff with that, because being able to spawn a block anywhere, I think, opens your game up for a lot of interesting puzzle mechanics. And I think what they did here is they have a couple places where, like, okay, well, they have a switch, you drop it on there and it opens the door, and that's it. And a couple places where you can use that for cover, but
sure.
I think there could have been more with just like I'm on a conveyor belt and there's lasers and arrows and everything, and I have to spawn a block to kind of block me there.
Yeah.
But yeah, and I would love to see them explore more of that, and I think future games do a lot more with that type of stuff. But you know, definitely. I think one of these areas you can actually there's spikes that are bouncing off the walls, and you can drop the block to try to make sure the spike doesn't come and hit you and stuff like that.
Sure, yeah.
So let's see here.
Yeah, the boss of this stage is it's the eyeballs. It is.
Yep. The
Vitreous.
Vitreous, yeah.
Right. I remember this one. I didn't like it a lot just because of. I mean, it's kind of like a 2.0 version of Argus in that you pull his eyeballs away from him and you kill the little eyeballs. But the lightning that he does can cover large chunks of the room, and I think there is a tell when the lightning is coming. But I haven't fought the boss enough to understand. Oh, okay, it's definitely going to be on this side of the room, or sometimes it's fast enough that you can't get to the other side. Or no, I think he actually like looks a specific direction.
Okay, you'll have to look for that. And so when I was talking about the blocks and using those as a mechanic, I was surprised that this boss didn't have more of a block mechanic, because you have the lightning bolts. I think maybe it's natural to think maybe I need to put the block in front of the lightning bolt so I don't get hit. But I don't think the block does anything in this fight.
Yeah, I mean, if you explode it, it does deal damage. But I don't think it has any special use case.
Right.
Also, yeah, you don't actually. I was thinking that you hook-shotted the eyeballs off. It's been a while, but
yeah, they just kind of come at you, and it's real easy. Just keep swinging your sword there. Yeah. So once you got all the little eyeballs, which by the way, 4 eyeballs kind of remain there. I'm not sure why. Those have chosen to stay, but much the master die. But in any case, the big ball comes at you, and I've got it in a predictable pattern where it comes at you and you swing and it bounces back. And so I don't know if I just got lucky on the angles lined up there.
He's straightforward at that point, definitely.
Yeah. Okay, so we've finished the 11th one, so I think there's 2 maidens left? 3 maidens left?
Let's see,
right?
that was... Yeah, you said that was
the Mire.
11. Yeah, we got Turtle Rock, and that gets us all of the maidens, and then you head into Ganon's Tower. Also, I don't remember which dungeon. The chat here probably knows, but one of the dungeons you actually rescue Zelda, and so the maiden looks like Zelda.
Okay.
But they don't make a big thing of it. Like, they don't even tell
They're
you.
just
really.
like, hey, I'm just a maiden. Thanks for rescuing me. I'm gonna go back to.
Yeah. She's like, okay, cool. Thanks for rescuing me. Bye. There it is. Princess Zelda is waiting for you inside of Turtle Rock. That's what the maiden was just telling us. Yeah, that's Turtle Rock. But yeah, they don't really make a big deal of it in this game whenever you rescue her. Whereas, like, I think a lot of the following games, that's kind of the central thing practically before you go to defeat Ganon. Spoiler alerts. But that's most.
Well, and before you get into Turtle Rock here, you have to have one of the magic abilities, and I don't know which one. Again, when I downloaded the save file, it came with this magic ability, so I didn't actually have to find it. But do you know which magic ability is required? I think it's like Quake. Is that right?
Oh yeah. Quake. Yeah.
And how do you get Quake?
Quake is the one where you're in the dark world, and in the water there's a circle of like stones, and there's a sign that says like I'm like sleeping or something. Do not disturb me. And if you throw something into that circle of stones, then a big fish.
Because there's also a guy in the desert world who says, "I'm sleeping." No, there's a sign that says this person's sleeping. What is that guy about?
That guy is a thief, and I think if you pick up his sign, he'll talk to you, and you can bring him. No. What is it? You find a chest. And if you bring this chest to him, it tags along like a little companion. Whoa. And you bring it to him, and he'll unlock it. He's like, "I'll unlock this if you go away." And then it has a bottle in the, chest.
Okay. Oh, nice. So the fish, you just throw a thing in.
The fish, you throw something in. He goes, "I'll give you this if you leave me alone." And he gives you Quake.
There's a theme of people, Link bugging people until they just give him what he wants and then leave me alone. Right. Kid.
Yeah, I don't know if you swam underneath the bridge in the light
I did,
world.
Yeah, okay. I found some. I don't remember what it was.
Like the hobo guy who's just like hanging out. He doesn't. I don't think he's upset that you're bothering him, but he does give you a bottle just for the heck of it. So
that's true. Now this dungeon here, the what was it? The Mire.
This was Turtle Rock.
Turtle Rock here. This is again one of my favorite dungeons because you have this railroad thing that you're having to choose directions on as you kind of skate along the track there.
Right.
And there are some puzzles where it's like, well, you have to take the path a certain way, and you have to time the lighting the fires in a certain way because they go out and you have to hit them all. So that was really cool.
Another use case of the hook shot being very, very, very helpful, because if you shoot your hook shot while you're in this large room on a track, it will stop you. So that gives you time to look at the track and go, man. Is that where I go? Also, if there's like the big spinning fireball, like ropes, and it's about to hit you, you can just shoot your hook shot and then it goes right through you, and then you keep going. Saves you a lot of issues.
Wow, that's really cool.
Yeah, and then the boss of this, Trinex, I believe, because he has three necks. I remember this boss.
Trinex. Okay.
I remember this boss being pretty rough. At least my first playthrough, because you need to have enough magic power to take down both the fire and the ice heads using both the opposite rods on them. And then there's a whole other fight, which is pretty simple, but still, especially if you haven't collected tunics in the game, like because you start with the green tunic.
Right. Yeah, and then the blue and then the red.
You have the blue tunic in the ice dungeon. You get the red one in Ganon's tower. But yeah, you'll take each one. I think halves how much damage you take.
Yep. I think it goes 50% and then 75%.
Oh, okay. Yeah. But yeah, like getting here without a lot of upgrades, you die really fast, and your magic runs out.
Well, because you don't actually need the blue wand is not a requirement for getting into this fight. So do you actually need it to kill the red head?
I believe so.
Yeah.
There might be some.
That seems like a tough one. If you go in there and you're like, well, I don't know what to do here, there's no way to understand.
Yeah, because the ice rod is just in a cave in the bottom right corner of Light World. So, I'm not sure if there is a tip somewhere in the game that kind of helps you out with that. But yeah, it's something that I don't remember because that's probably from my first playthrough.
When I fought Trinex, what was it? Yeah, Trinex. When I first entered, it was obvious. It's like, all right, great. I got a red head. I got a blue head to shoot the red head with the ice and shoot the blue head with the fire. That was cool because it immediately clicked to me. The difficulties on that fight are if you don't kill the ice one fast enough, he will actually spawn persistent ice on the ground. Which makes the next stage, so once you knock down the two heads, he goes around and you kind of have to maneuver a lot. And
the ice will slow you down.
And so you really want to knock those two heads out as soon as possible. Now, the fire head won't actually do any sort of persistent. I guess you would expect, like, if the ice one leaves ice on the ground, maybe the fire should leave fire on the ground, but I don't think that actually happens at all.
I think he just breathes fire at you. Yeah. I usually kill the red one first for whatever reason, so
I
don't even remember what he does.
He just shoots fire. And I did too, and I think that was mostly just because it was on the left side. And I don't know. Again, we talked about how I always go to the left first there.
Yeah. So after you defeat Trinex in the Turtle Rock, then you have all the Crystal Maidens. Hopefully, to enter Ganon's tower. And there's a couple of items we didn't talk about. I really like the mirror shield in this game, not just for its functionality, but also for its looks. I mean, this is giant golden shield. I always just loved how that looked in this game.
Yeah.
And being able to, deflect or reflect pretty much any projectile in the game with it. And another one that you don't need for the game is the magic cape. I don't know if you ever used that, but
I have no idea how to use that. Although I did find a place, it was like a secret area that said something about like if you can fly, you can get this or something.
Oh yeah,
I don't know what that is.
It's this one room that has a big, long, winding hallway of just spikes.
Yeah,
and you can just run it all with like fairies and health restoring items. But that one gets you, I believe, the other cane. I don't remember the other cane's name. Chat a little.
Oh, that's the cane that gives you
invulnerability.
Invulnerability. I actually use that. That's a great weapon.
Yeah.
Yeah,
but neither of those is
cane
required.
Of Byrna.
Cane of Birna. Oh, okay. Man, yeah, I never get that item, so I didn't even remember it. But yeah, super helpful item in that case.
Yeah.
But now we're in Ganon's Tower, which is a super multi-level dungeon where there's boss refights. There's tons of rooms and all sorts of crazy puzzles. I remember one of my favorite kind of tricky things in this game, or in this dungeon in particular, was there's a wall to bomb across a gap, and there's like 2 blocks that you can start sprinting and then turn towards the blocks and bounce yourself off them to cross this gap.
Nice.
And then bomb open the room, which I think just has fairies in it or something.
And that's
like
a speedrunning tactic?
Not necessarily, but that's just like what you have to do to get over that gap.
Okay. Because I was going to say, when I was looking at some interesting trivia for the game, I did notice that there's a way you can actually walk through walls in this game.
Oh
yeah, I didn't confirm that. I just here's a piece of trivia. So
I mean, there is a speed run where you can beat the game in like 4 minutes because.
Oh yeah, and I think that's what we was referring to.
Yeah, you can get out of bounds.
Yeah. So this tower that you go, Ganon's Tower, I think it was called. You have to go fight Ganhim. I don't know how to pronounce his name.
I always said Aganim or Aganim.
But what's actually really kind of interesting about this is if you say it out loud, sounds a lot like Ganon.
You're right, yeah.
You know? So I wonder if they're just like, well, we want everything to allude back to Ganon or Ganondorf.
Right.
But yeah, or maybe they're not related at all. But...
Oh, here's that spot that I was talking about.
Oh, okay.
You can, there might be another way to do it, but...
Yeah, because okay, so I see what you're saying now. There's a gap and then there's a wall that looks like you can bomb. And when I was looking at it, I was like, well, clearly there's another way that you are supposed to come from behind. So I bomb it, I throw the thing over, I'm like, great, I opened up the passage. How do I actually get across hook shot? No, you don't use the hook shot. And I'm just like, I'm close to finishing the game, let's just do this.
Yeah.
So you go up to the tower and you fight the wizard here, and he has a very, very poor doppelganger spell because like 2 of his characters are just alpha'd out.
Yeah,
you're like, okay, you're not
transparent.
even close. It's like, this one's obvious. But one of the things, I guess a high level strat, if you're a pro at this game, I could see you using the doppelganger's orbs to reflect back at the wizard himself.
Yeah, you can just position yourself in a way kind of farther away once they've all landed in a spot, and then you can just mash the sword and knock multiples back at the main Aghanim.
Okay, and what's interesting about the knocking back the orbs is it is timing specific in the same way that a baseball, if you're too early or too late, it's going to go to the left or the right. This is not something where as long as you hit it, it's programmed to go back to the thing. So it's one of these things where it seems like the best way to reliably hit is to be as close to the enemy as possible.
Oh, so I think it is actually, if you stay still, he'll aim it at you, and if you don't move and hit it,
because
that did move a little off. Interesting.
Yeah, so I think it maybe there's a little bit of that to try to steer it towards, but it's not 100%. At least,
it does seem a little bit off.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you're like mid-distance, then you don't even notice it. So that's probably why I didn't notice it before.
I was as far as I can be because I was like, I'm really bad about the whole not getting hit thing. Yeah, that one's way off. That was like, 45 degrees off there.
Sure, yeah.
So anyway, so we kind of run around on this for a little bit, hit him a couple times.
Yeah, and then once you defeat him, like a bat spawns out of his corpse and flies away and then crash lands in the temple.
Now, as a child, I'm curious, did that blow you away at all? Like, oh, it was Ganon the whole time? Or you're like, no, I kind of get the whole... Because, in Zelda, nowadays, it's like, okay, it's obvious Ganondorf, right? But
yeah, I don't think I even necessarily knew what was happening. I was just like, okay, cool, there's a bat for some reason. And, oh, now Ganon spawned at the main place. It's like the spirit of Ganon was controlling him. Because I think Aghanim was a good guy before. I think that's the lore. So it's more like a possession or something. And then, he flies over.
And then drops a big... thing and smashes the temple, and then you can jump in the temple there.
That's right.
So interesting thing about Ganondorf is in the Western release. By the way, this game was released in the United States or in North America in 1992. Get my years right. And so it was in Japan in 1991, and the Western localization actually wanted to give him a last name. Did you know that, Lobos? It's a weird piece of trivia.
I know it because you told me, but no, I didn't know that before.
You're supposed to. No, that's fascinating.
Yep.
Tell me more. Okay. Well, since you already know about it, I guess I don't need to talk about it. So, so his last name is Dragmire, and as far as I know, that's the only time Ganondorf has a last name.
Yeah, well, maybe he does have it on all the other games. They just don't bring it up. Maybe he's embarrassed of it.
Maybe
he's got family issues and he just doesn't want to, carry around the name Dragmire anymore. He wants to be his own person.
But, it is a very, when you think about that last name, it's like, yeah, that's a name of like a villain, Dragmire. Yeah. It's like, that sounds disgusting. Dragmire.
Maybe all of Ganon's issues are based off of his
last name.
Yeah, like
that could be.
He's got daddy issues or something. I don't know.
I mean, that's how Romeo and Juliet. That was their whole last name was the essence of that feud. So I could see, big things have happened because of last names. Now, so going back to this temple here, I jumped in that hole right away. So Ganon comes down, and he's like, all right, come fight me. I was like, great, let's do this fight. And I'm doing this fight really well, and then the Saras, I'm not going to say his name right ever, so we're going to call him Big S. Big S messages me. He's like, hey, you got to use the silver arrows to kill this. And I was like, all right, so silver arrows, maybe I have to like shoot the arrows through the fire to light them on fire. So I was like, all right. So I was trying to figure out how do I position my arrows to do that, because the fires are on the corners of that.
Right.
Turns out that's not it at all. He could have been a little more specific. He's like, hey, actually, buddy, you don't have the silver arrows yet. And so I spent probably 30 minutes on this fight being like, what am I doing wrong? No. And so I looked it up, and it's like, okay, well, there's this big bomb you got to go pick up, and then bomb this, and you can get the silver arrows.
Yeah.
And so once I did that, that was a pretty easy thing. And actually, what you can see is me. I have the cane of Byrne here.
Oh, yeah.
And this is fantastic because the beginning of the fight, you can just pop that thing and go to town, just hit him over and over and over. Because normally what he does is he has these bats that come out and kind of circle around, and you have to evade them. So you get a couple hits in, then you have to kind of engage him on his turn.
Sure, yeah. And I think what's interesting is I believe, if I recall correctly, it's 4 silver arrows to kill him.
Yeah, 4.
Which is like, they're just straight up like tossing 3... The rule of 3 out the window.
Yeah, what's up with that?
They're like, nah, let's do 4.
4, yeah. And Zelda games have always been 3. It's always, you get the boss to his weak spot, and you do 3 sequences of that, and then that's it. But yeah, it's totally 4 on this one. I'm curious why 4 was the magic number.
There is a cool glitch where when these lanterns in the fight go out, it goes out. The left one goes out, and then the right one goes out. If you light the left one before the right one goes out, then the right one will stay lit forever. And then you only have to relight the left one. It's kind of like just a speed run strat.
I had thought that it was always based on when you actually lit them. I didn't realize there was a sequence there.
Yeah, it would be, but it's just that event whenever they turn off.
Okay.
It doesn't fire if you relight it. And then it just functions as normal from that point out, except for the other one doesn't turn off. So, yeah.
So
go
ahead.
No, I was just gonna say Ganon. Definitely on a first playthrough is pretty rough. The damage is super high, though even though you got like red tunic by then, usually, unless you're doing a challenge run or something. But you can definitely go through a bunch of fairies, and you do have to kind of worry about magic if you're running low using other utility items.
Yeah. And so he's kind of have 3 phases. You got the initial bat phase, and then he has these fire bats, and then the floor starts, crumbling. And he does this invisibility attack, and you have to light both fires, and then you can see him. Then when you hit him with the sword, he freezes, and that's when you hit him with the silver arrows.
Right.
You have to do that 4 times.
Right.
Then you've completed the game.
Then you complete the game, yeah. You collect the Triforce, and it's like they've always told you that you can do what you wish with the power of the Triforce. And then they play the credit sequence where everything is turning back to normal and everybody's happy and everything's great. And it's one of my favorite like ending sequences. It's a nice length. It kind of ties off a lot of little story points of people you met, and the music is just fantastic. And also one of the first games that I remember playing that really had a lot of statistics at the end.
Yeah, that's right.
For like, how many lives you lost, like how many times you died in specific dungeons, things like that. A lot of cool stuff in the ending here.
Yeah, and I want to say, and I might just be making stuff up, but in the ending sequence, we revisit the bully and his little blob.
Oh yeah,
is that true? Is that am I?
You do.
Okay.
I believe it says that they made up or something.
I'm not sure that making up is like the right way to resolve that situation. I feel like there's some
the bully should have gotten his ass kicked or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, one funny thing is if you do the super fast speed run of this, the game state never changes from raining outside. So the entire ending sequence, it's raining. So everybody's like outside, like the king returns or whatever, and then just like pouring rain on them. But yeah, that's kind of a funny little trivia thing there.
That's great. All right, well, that's pretty much Zelda: A Link to the Past.
It's A Link to the Past. So much more I could talk about too, but. In the hour we fit a lot of good. We
hit
in there.
We hit our goal of the title screen to the ending screen.
Yeah,
and we actually did get a member inducted into the Hall of Heroes.
Yes, so we have a thing called the Hall of Heroes, which every other week when we do these broadcasts, you're going to know ahead of time what game we're going to be covering, and if you submit yourself, either with like a time-stamped message or something like that, at the end of whatever game it is, you will get points and be added to the Hall of Heroes. For this week, we have Jazz Never Sleeps, the only person to have submitted a completion of A Link to the Past.
So Jazz sent us a message. Do we happen to have that available or?
Let me see.
Okay.
It's over.
It was on the imager itself.
Yeah, it says it here as well. Okay, hi Lobos and Ryne. Looking forward to the podcast. I applaud you both for the initiative. Here's my Hall of Heroes Link to the Past submission. I love being reminded why this game is easily in my all-time top 10.
Do you just want to double check make sure there wasn't anyone else that sent one in the inbox?
Oh, sure.
So we got 2 new ones.
We got one more. We do have another one.
Okay.
Actually, right when we started, from Dog Type. Let me.
Congrats, both Jazz Never Sleeps and Dog.
Yes.
Was it Dog Pipe?
Dog Type.
Dog Type. Congrats,
Dog
both of you.
Let me pull that image up as well, just so we can give them some credit. I'm not sure that we will necessarily pull up everybody's image, although we can compile them and have as long as we have like a cutoff time. Boom. There's Dog Type having completed. With the ending sequence there with the lumberjacks who are
Very
now
cool.
Cutting a new tree. So thank you guys so much.
Thank you so much. It's great to see that.
For completing the game ahead of the podcast.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know what the point system exactly
we'll
is.
figure it out. Yeah, we haven't quite figured out how many points we should give, but that'll be something hopefully in episode 2 we'll have more details on there.
Yeah.
Well, we've reached the end credits of this episode, so I want to thank you everyone for listening to us and watching us on Twitch.
Yeah, thank you, everybody. There are several ways you can follow us. You can follow us on Twitter at SaturdayMGaming. You can catch us on iTunes or whatever podcast platform you prefer. There's like 8 of them or something like that. We use Anchor.fm as like our main hub page. But yeah, wherever you want to. And also, if you're listening on the podcast itself, we do stream these live on Twitch on my channel, twitch.tv/LobosJr, LobosJr.
And
so
there you get to see
there.
the video footage of us basically playing and commenting over there.
And reading our Nintendo powers. These are not Photoshopped yet. Yeah. Maybe.
They're real.
It's real.
And so, you mentioned the Twitter page. The Twitter page has all the information you need if you ever forget about where to go for particular contact information. But as a reminder, we're always looking for feedback about how you enjoy the show or the episode, or you just have questions or comments. Shoot those over to us at SaturdayMorningGamingShow@gmail.com.
Heck yeah. And before we completely sign off, I just want to bring up a point. What is next episode going to be?
Next episode, do we want to have you announce it? I feel like you should be the official announcer each time.
All right.
As long as you know what it is.
Sure, I do.
Okay.
I think. Our next game is Mega Man 2.
What a great game.
It is a very good game. Fantastic soundtrack. Widely remixed and everything. And that means I get to play Mega Man 2 before the 22nd. Is that right? Our next episode?
The 22nd.
22nd. So play some Mega Man 2.
Yes.
Sweet. Well, for us at Saturday Morning Gaming, I am Lobos.
And I'm Ryne. We'll see you June 22nd for episode 2, Mega Man 2.